Steven, it's a new year, it's 2022, and I've got a big, fat, juicy wish that it's going to be a year full of fulfillment here on You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. What do you think?
I've got a big old sauce-drenched wish myself, just slapped on my plate here in front of me, and I'm going to dig in to a whole nother year of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
It's going to be a big year full of winding down our rewatch of Community and moving on to whatever comes next for us, and to be a part of it with us. There's so many ways to show your support.
We've got a big old warm pool here for you. Come on and slip on your skivvies and slide down the ladder and dive in. How can they get in this pool, Zach?
If you put your toe in the water and it feels fine and you want to get waist deep, come join us on Patreon, patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. It's the way to support this show and to help us move it forward as we move into the future. It's also the way to get more of us every week with our live pre-show every week, You Can't Dis a Pre-Show, and all kinds of Patreon exclusive content coming all the time, Steven.
We'd love for you to support us on Patreon, but you can also hang out with us free of charge over on Twitter at You Can't Dis a Pod. We are also on Instagram at Can't Disappoint Podcast, and we're on Facebook and YouTube under the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Also, if you would like to be a part of the show every week, you can email us at can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com. To be a part of next week's podcast, write us in your trivia, your favorite funny moment, and your episode MVP for next week's episode of Community, and we'll read it out loud on the show.
If you like what we do here, leave a review wherever you leave reviews about podcasts.
Yeah, maybe like the Sharper Image product review site. Leave us a review there.
There's like a box full of sticky notes at my post office. Write a review and leave it there.
I hope you guys are jumping on board with us and you're ready to traverse 2022 with me and Steven. What do you say? Let's rip our way into another episode of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Cannonball!
I'll put like a big splat.
Yeah!
My name is Professor Roger Del Salvo, for the time being. For I use many a pseudonym, such as Jeff Goulash, Philip Switch, or Baz Ravish. For I am a grifter, and this is Grifting 101.
Hey there, kind sir. My name is Pee Wee Keyboards.
Seems legit.
Are you tired of your keyboards always being so big?
Oh my god, yeah, they're fucking huge.
Well, back in my warehouse, I've got a whole slew of Pee Wee keyboards. They're small, little keyboards. They work for your phone, work for your computer. Like this one I have here in my hand. I want to know if you want to take them off me. I think they're going to be a gold mine. I'll give them to you for just a couple $100, but it's going to make you millions, my friend.
Oh my god, I'm so down. You had me, wouldn't you like, or however you started that, I was in. I knew that I wanted to. It's funny because I thought this morning, I'm going to take out all of my savings in 20s and just carry it around for the right opportunity. And I think here it is. You say only a few
convenient.
hundred. You don't have to be that nice to me. You're my friend. I'll give you thousands.
Well, here, how about this?
Okay.
Give me 10K.
Yeah. Oh, easy.
I give you the key to the storage locker full of Pee Wee keyboards.
How many keyboards we talking?
It's tough to keep track. I just am so overstocked on Pee Wee keyboards.
Right.
Between, like, definitely in the Ks. Lots of Ks.
In the Ks. And how much are we talking profit per unit?
You know, you sell them fine. I personally, they're my babies. So I think they're worth at least $500 a piece.
Wow.
I mean, think about it. You could take this Pee Wee keyboard anywhere.
Yeah.
Use it on your phone,
I mean, I saw
computer.
the passion in your eyes. I would have given you that much for one.
It's even compatible with the PSP Go. Nintendo's interested.
And that's really important when you're buying a keyboard. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a briefcase full of money.
Well, I've got a briefcase with at least 3 Pee Wee keyboards in it.
Okay. Let's trade them back and forth for a while.
Let's do it. Let's see. How long can we keep this going?
All right. Hi, everybody. That's the bit.
That's the bit.
That's the bit. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Welcome.
And scene.
To You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. Steven, we're here. We made it.
We're alive. We've made it on the other end, Zach. I see you at the other side of the war.
What do you mean by the other end, though? Because we're at the beginning of a podcast and we're not at the end of the show yet.
Well,
so what are we at the end of?
We're at the end of our hiatus, Zach.
That's true for
to
us.
To those at home, we haven't missed a beat. But in the real world, we've been apart for a couple weeks.
That's true, and I truly did. Just a few days ago, I started thinking about the podcast, which got me thinking about doing it, which, after a couple degrees of separation, got me to the train of maybe I miss Steven a little. I more miss the platform of talking endlessly that talking to Steven gives me, but I guess by proxy, I miss Steven.
Yeah, you miss what he brings.
How was we'll get into our break in a second because we had a really eventful break. Yeah. I would say even arguably more eventful than typical when we take a little break. Usually it's because you're moving or because you're really busy at work, which is all really exciting. But we both had two of the most memorable weeks of our life, I think.
Absolutely, I think so.
But before we get to all that, of course, it's towards the beginning of the month, so we've got to shout out our $10 and up patrons over at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. We're back after taking a little break, so patreon.com, Can't Disappoint Podcast, that's the place to get You Can't Dis a pre-show, which is always really fun. That's also the place where you can get our weekly episodes of Brokeback Bebop as we're rounding out the end of the original run of the show and moving towards what's next. You've almost got a full podcast series to listen to over at the Patreon, so go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, of course, those beautiful people that we couldn't do this show without are Danny M. Lugo, Mary Baker Budisa, Brian Thurman, Planeswalker Prez, Emmy West, and Brandon Folkemer. Very thankful for all of them.
Thanks
and if you'd like
here.
to get added to that list, don't be discouraged just because we're almost done with community. We'll shout you out throughout the rest of the year here on You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. And the patrons are going to get everything first as we move into the next phase of existence.
All the info, all the sneaky deets.
Right. They're a full week early on the podcast, too, so that's fun if you like to be early on the podcast. What I will say is that's an easy hype up for next week, where we're going to do the third volume of America's Next Top Zach and Steven Rewatch podcast, where we're going to reveal the third of the 4 options for our next Rewatch podcast that we'll be letting y'all vote for on Twitter later this year. I'm pretty excited. Another good option.
I've really always wanted to talk about this one, so it should be a fun time.
Yeah, I just hope it's not too rainy out on the day that we record. I'm really hoping for good weather.
Yeah.
Well, let's also shout out, of course, the man who, without, we would not have the eyeballs or the brain or the consciousness to be able to appreciate a sunny day. That is, of course, our proud community papa at Communities on Twitter.
The Rocky Balboa of the internet.
Our relationship sure is a rocky road ice cream full of just little bits of emotional trauma that just add to a delicious flavor.
Can't fit that in a sugar cone.
So if you don't know, which you should, Communities are the great community fan account over on Twitter that share all of the community fan content. They're always breaking news. Like, we should talk about, this is the first time that we've recorded. It's old news now. But even though our hearts are kind of used to the community people being like, yeah, we all want to do the movie. No, we don't know when it's going to happen. Dan Harmon, in a recent interview talking about his new show, Little Demon, I'm pretty sure is what the interview was for, pretty much revealed that there's an outline for the movie and they're shopping it around to people, which is huge news.
That's big
Joel
news.
McHale's answer has always been, well, we all want to do it, but Dan Harmon has to write it. And it looks like Dan Harmon has at least committed to knowing what the story of it is, which is pretty big.
That's pretty big. When that broke, I literally was like, LOL at us taking a break right as the only relevant community news to happen.
Well, I think it's important to note that as we're finishing community and moving on to the next thing, we hope you all come with us. After the end of December this year, this won't be a weekly podcast anymore.
No.
But if there is ever anything noteworthy of community to cover, we're about to be only the second podcast ever to complete the entire run of community. We'll be only the second people, which I think is still awesome, to be the second people who have done a podcast on every episode of community. Of course we're gonna come back if there's.
I don't
something
know.
else
You
to
don't think
talk
Dom and
about.
Andre are coming to catch up, do you?
There are a couple other people that are in season 5 or 6, but we are going to be we're gonna finish it first. We've only
So
got
help
4
me
episodes left.
God.
So help us God. We've got a plan. There's no way they're gonna finish because they're already dead. But thanks to communities, thanks to everyone. Let's talk. Let's talk about our time off.
Yeah.
Who should start?
Why don't you start, Zach? Tell us
Okay.
about your wonderful time.
Yeah, Lily and I went on a lovely vacation. It's the first time we went on a trip, just the two of us, since before the pandemic. We went to Milwaukee for a couple days to visit the town, which is a really cool town. It doesn't feel at all as big as Chicago. It kind of feels like Indy, but a little more like almost like old town values, kind of like how Philadelphia has like older buildings. I don't know. It was a really neat city. It was a
By
really
old
fun place
town
to walk
values,
around.
you mean no black people, right?
I almost mean that in the middle of the day, Lily and I looked around and we were like, there's nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a big city, but it felt like we had it to ourselves. And like, it was like having the town as like a little playground.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if it's because of some sort of, what's it called? Like sundown
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, sundown town situation. They're just waiting.
But it was a really cool city. We went to see a comedian, Joe Pera, that we really liked. That was really fun. The art museum there's really cool. And then we went up the road or down the road or west of the road, I'm not sure, to Wisconsin Dells, which is just this huge tourist trap that always had... I had known about it since I was a kid because they had the water park, Noah's Ark, that has a water slide with a loop in it. And since I was a kid, I thought that sounded really neat. So we went there and I did that. And it is one of the best water parks I've ever been to. That almost more than anything was worth the trip. Like, I would go, it was like 6 hours. I would go for a weekend just to go to Noah's Ark. It was
Wow.
It was that fun. And we did some other theme park stuff. Lily and I went on a really fun romantic dinner boat cruise where we got to, it was a little awkward because the tables were limited, so you had to sit with other people. So it was like us and 2 other couples. And it started like awkward and stifled.
Oh, swinging.
Yeah. It started awkward and stifled. And then by the end of it, we were all like, you're
Making out.
so cool. Mm-hmm. You're just my best friend.
Yeah.
Because for an hour there was free drinks and that was really nice.
That's
so we all
cool.
got real close to each other. That was really fun. One of the highlights for me was on the last day we went to this place called the Wisconsin Deer Park, which is just this huge enclosure where deer just freely walk around with the people.
Yeah, we had hyped that up on the show because you get to do whatever you want to the deer.
You
I was
truly
wondering.
can. They walk right up to you. I had like 6 around me at a time.
Hot.
And you have these crackers to feed them. And some of them were like, some of the doe were really into, the deer are weird. Not all of them were into being pet. But like a few of a certain type of doe, like really, I spoke their language and I got them to like be into me, like scratching their neck for a really long time.
Ooh.
And I know we're making it sound dirty, but it was genuinely so cool.
The pictures were really wholesome.
To have that like intimate, and that didn't even capture, like there was a moment when I was like sitting down on a bench just like hugging up on like a bunch of deer.
Wow.
And it was truly some of the best moments of my life, just
That
because I
sounds
love
incredible.
animals and I feel like to an extent I can like get on the same wavelength as animals, and it was really good for me. It was really nice.
Zach and I
we
met
did
a
all
dog once that was on our wavelength. It was great.
Yeah, but we were on acid.
Fair enough.
I don't know. There's so many fun things that we did that I'm sure will come up over the course of years as we revisit it, because we had so much fun, truly so much fun. What about you?
Well, so we recorded on Sunday that week, pretty standard.
I left that Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah. Wednesday, pretty norm, working, a little bit of stress. Thursday, tested positive for COVID in the morning.
Huh. How was that?
It was fine at first. I hadn't had it at all. But then that night I started feeling really sick to my stomach. And then the next few days I was on the toilet probably every 15 minutes for like 4 days.
And
I
not
ended up
for
in
the typical leisurely reasons.
Exactly. I ended up in the ER because I hadn't
Jesus,
really
Steven.
eaten.
And you're definitely not the type of person to willy-nilly go to the ER either.
No, if I can
You were
avoid it.
probably pretty nervous about what was going
Yeah.
on to go to the ER.
Well, and I didn't even go there first. I went to the urgent care, and they were like, "Oh, that sounds really bad. You should go to the ER." And I was like,
we're
"Well,
more
thanks."
for like yes or no, you do or don't have COVID.
Yeah, they were
or
like, so you're here for a
here's
COVID
note
test,
to
and I was
not
like,
have
no.
to go to work. You might need to see like a medical professional.
So I go to the ER, which the ER is always never a fun place, but I didn't realize how unfun the ER in Chicago would be.
I can't imagine. Sure.
There was like an old Hispanic man in a wheelchair throwing up louder than anything I've ever heard in my life. Like he was like yelling, throwing up into a bag, and nobody came to help him or check on him or anything.
At any point were you like, come on, guy, everyone in this room knows that you're showing off. You do not
and
need
the
to
worst
yell.
is when he would do it for 10 minutes but not actually throw up. He'd just be making the noises because his
was
body
trying
was
to
so
retch it up.
miserable. Yeah. And then there was like a baby walking around, like open mouth, like coughing at everyone that like wasn't really being supervised other than by her 3-year-old
You doing that on a
sister.
Zoom call made me uncomfortable, let alone you're in a room of sickies.
It was, and poor Danny stuck with me as long as she could, but she had to go to work. So then it ended up just being just me there solo, and I was like, I'm gonna die in this waiting room.
So wait, did you go like in the middle of the night?
No, it was like daytime.
Oh, and she had to work like in the evening?
She did work like in the afternoon. She like went in
Interesting.
like a little bit later that day.
Sorry, I'm just trying to paint a
To
picture. I
keep
was thinking
safe
you were
with
like
me.
there all night, and she's like, sorry, dude, I gotta go.
No, and like it was, I don't know how in depth I should go, but I had to do things into a cup that I'd never have to do into a cup, and they give you lots of tools.
Well,
to
that
help
narrows it
accomplish.
down.
Yeah, yeah. They like handed me like a popsicle stick and some gloves and basically wished me luck.
Then
But,
you went in the bathroom and started making noise like the old guy in the wheelchair.
Yeah, exactly. So they, checked me all out and gave me some medicine and called me back a couple days later and were like, hey, you have this bacterial infection in your stomach. Here's how to deal with that. All
how
of
are
that,
you now?
and I got a goddamn sty in my eye on Thursday, too. So, like, it was a
Those suck.
threefer.
That sucks.
All stacked on top of me. But
You were
I'm
just
doing
getting
much better
rammed
now.
at all ends.
Yeah. I had to get all my sick out of the way when Zachy was gone, because he doesn't let me be sick.
So there was a day, like I said, I was kind of starting to miss Steven, and I texted him that, and he was like, oh, yeah, you too, buddy. Can't wait to record. Could I call you and tell you some stuff? And, your mind races when stuff like that happens. Yeah. And truly, I mean, usually my first guess is, okay, Steven can't record, and he's going to tell me why. But it's, I don't know, you said, you don't call me very often.
No.
So I almost was thinking like, God forbid, did like you and Danny break up or something?
Uh-huh.
Or I was expecting something bad, and it was something bad, but not what I was
But not-
expecting. And you shared a lot a detail with me.
Yeah.
And the thing that I guess trigger warning to everyone that I want to mention the most, because I feel like I want clarification on it a little bit. You told something about a doctor that was just jabbing at your butthole.
Yeah. Because I was like, oh, there's like, have you had any blood in your situation? And I was like, oh, yeah,
big
some, but I
time.
think it's just from like a really bad hemorrhoid. And she was like, you want me to take a look at it? And I was like, if you want to.
Wink.
Which I guess she did. And then she came back with somebody. And I thought they were just going to have me like drop trowel, like bend over. They'd like...
Right.
Like shine a light in there and make sure that everyone was a-okay. And then she was like, all right, you can pull down your pants and lay down on the bed on your side. And I was like, well, this is kind of weird. I normally take it on my back, but then she started jamming
Can I at least get, like, a pillow
around,
to put under me or something?
and like she wanted to poke it to make sure that it was soft, not hard. And it was soft,
it's just
all
the way
right.
that you describe poke it.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like they're just jabbing at it.
It was a
which
lot
doesn't
of
seem
jab.
very
Like it
medical.
was like I felt like that, and I was like, ow, and then she did it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hurt a lot.
Well, it always hurts the
I
first
cried.
time. You gotta
It
ignore the
hurt a
first
lot.
couple cries of pain, and then if it continues, you have to make that judgment
Yeah.
call. Do I go forward with this or not?
And when she first, she was like, "Oh yeah, there's some blood down there." I was like, "Oh no shit." I know that.
And trigger warning, I guess. I'd like to segue from that to just think about how stifled and impersonal we were when we started this podcast. And now you just talked about having your butt probed and like what way you were laying on the table. How does that feel? Doesn't it like...
I felt violated.
No, not how does that feel? How does it
Didn't
feel
feel
to be
good.
so personal with the podcast? I think it feels kind of nice.
Is it
Just to just let it all
therapeutic?
out.
Just to just be able to
little bit.
release it into the world somewhere
little bit,
that's safe
sure.
and dangerous at the same time.
Yeah.
Because like people will hear this, but like
But who
That's their
truly
choice.
listens?
They know what they're getting into.
Well, I think it's time to jab our way right into the first of the final 5 episodes of Community.
Let's do it. Let's jab away.
Today we're here to talk about Season 6, Episode 9. It's Grifting 101. The episode was directed by Rob Schrab.
Rob Schrab. I just saw his voice pop up on it was either an episode of Little Demon or Rick and Morty. He was voicing on. Yeah.
Nice. Before this, he had directed Basic Lupine Neurology, an infamous episode of the show, and an infamous episode of our podcast.
Yeah.
Also, App Development and Condiments, G.I. Jeff, Basic Sandwich, Ladders, Laws of Robotics and Party Rights, Advanced Safety Features, and in the rest of the 4 episodes, he directs 2 of them, Modern Espionage and the series finale, Emotional Consequences of
Wow, Rob
Broadcast
Schrab's
Television.
all over this season, huh?
Yeah. And this episode was written by Ryan Ridley, and if that name is familiar, it's because it's the name of both the character and the actor who plays the guy from Jeff's Gym in this episode. Ryan Ridley was a Channel 101 guy with Dan Harmon back in the day, and he wrote one other episode of Community, one of the Season 5 two-parter, Basic Sandwich. And this episode originally aired on May 5th, 2015, and we never introduced ourselves. Hi, everyone. I'm the reverse Jim Gaffigan.
Nice. Well, I did introduce myself earlier.
We've learned a lot about you, for sure.
Yeah, well, I did the whole grifting bit.
I guess, but you didn't, say, I'm Steve. Oh, I guess, do you even remember
I had
what
a
name
name.
you gave yourself?
No, not at all.
Let's jump into some trivia.
Pussyfoot O'Fagan.
I've got 7 questions for you today.
Wow, I've got a whopping 5 for you.
That's okay. I'll go first.
Okay.
Who starred in the film The Grifters?
They say it.
It's discussed in the beginning when they're around the study table.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know it. You got nothing.
Nev Campbell.
Nope.
And Celine Dion.
I'd watch that. No,
Yeah.
It's John Cusack, Angelica Houston, and Almost No Grifting.
Almost no grifting. I did think that line was funny. What are the actual diabetes symptoms Chang's experiencing?
Oh, man. He has to pee all the time.
Not one of them.
Maybe that's just me. Did he say fatigue?
He did say fatigue.
Blood pressure?
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
He's really thirsty all the time.
Yeah.
He's got fatigue, blurry
because
vision.
he has to pee all
and
the time.
his cuts heal slower.
His cuts heal slower. That's what the doctor said. Yeah? Is he going to help you? Well, he said, this is my home. Okay, my next question. What is Abed's grifter name that he comes up with, that he gives to the professor in the classroom?
Steely O'Toole.
Slick Pockets Tucker.
I liked that.
Apparently not too much.
Which way has Chang had a pissing contest?
Well, it's like a reverse pissing contest, and he said, your pee? And they're like, no. And he's like, well, I've only had it go from behind.
I'll give it to you. He says in the back.
Is he saying that he's had poop go back up his butt?
I thought he was saying that he'd had someone pee in his asshole. I was really confused. I think it's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
It's your turn.
Okay. How much of the million does Elroy promise to cut the grifting professor in on after the
5%.
African telegram? 14 grand.
Ooh, not quite.
About how many miniature keyboards I have come in my way.
the what's it,
You
what
already
I call
forget.
it?
It's okay.
Oh,
You don't
wait.
know. If you don't know, I don't know.
was my last name, or Mini. Petite. Something to do with small.
Do you have any more questions?
Which aunt of Elroy's died in Africa?
Oh, no. I don't remember the name.
It was his Aunt Baba.
How does the show shout
Aunt
out...
Baba.
How does the show shout out Childish Gambino in the teacher's lounge scene?
I missed it. I don't know.
Aunt
Baba. Comedy comes in
The
threes.
professor pretty winkingly says, because the internet.
Nice.
And that's what Donald Glover left the show to do.
Great album.
So it felt, I think it's got to be like a specific
Yeah.
call out of the album title, because it didn't even fit in what he was trying to say. He said, because the internet. Nobody says that as a phrase.
It's true. How much of the sting is hand drawn?
Either 20 or 30%.
Which one?
I'm leaning 30%. It was 20.
20%. I'll give it
Damn.
to you.
You shouldn't, but I'll
you were
take
wrong, but
Yeah.
who cares?
I'll take it. Oh, it's my turn, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What's on the blackboard in the storage room the study group plans their sting in? What's on the blackboard? You don't know. I can already tell you don't know.
A map of the school.
Potential mascot ideas, which made
Ooh.
me wonder if it was literally a prop from the episode where Pierce and the Dean come up with the human being, like early in the series. Maybe it's not, but that's what made me think. You got any more?
I have one more for you.
Okay.
How much money did they agree to pay?
Well, the Dean counts to 21, but that's stacks, not how much money. Was it 50 grand?
It was 50 grand. My first answer was the 21 stacks, and then they ended up saying the dollar amount, which normally 21 stacks of money would be $21,000, but
Well, they were like haphazardly put together.
yeah,
I got two more. You didn't take any of mine. How many years until Britta gets a 2-year degree?
3?
Yeah.
Nice.
And my last one, what class does Officer Kakowski take after his work?
Macrame.
Yes. Good job.
That was a good one.
All right, well, great round. Let's move
Wow,
right
we
on
had
in.
12
to the
unique
great people who've
questions
emailed
that
us.
time. Good for us.
Sure.
Look at
Let's
us.
see if that continues.
Let's see. Opening the emails. Our first one is from our good friend Brandon Folcomer. Brandon says, "Hi guys, on rewatch I enjoyed this one a little more, but I think
Me
it's
too.
one of the weaker episodes of season 6.
Disagree.
Matt Berry is very funny as Professor DeSalvo, but any ripping on The Sting, which I've never seen, falls a little flat for me."
Agreed.
So that's fair. Trivia, what has Chang tried to see a doctor for in the beginning of the episode? His diabetes symptoms.
Yeah, but he just went to the doctor's house.
Just for a visit. How do Annie and Abed plan to get the money for Britta's class enrollment? From her parents.
Yep.
I thought that was a very unfunny scene.
I
Especially
thought
the second time they made the joke.
I thought every time Annie said it was pretty unfunny, but I thought the way Abed said it was kind of funny. But no, I don't like that. I think that does the character of Britta a huge disservice that she's kind of now, on top of being the punching bag, also Britta's parent. I don't know. I don't like it.
What do Officer Kakowski and Frankie have in common? They have a mentally challenged sibling.
Yeah.
What food are the group going to get after their victory?
Hot dogs, hot dogs.
Hot dogs! Get your
Oh,
hot
no.
dogs here!
You
I
guys
gotta
won't
show you
get
this
that,
video,
but that's
Zach, it's
literally a
hilarious.
triggering moment of my life.
I did it the other day, and Danny just looked at me and said no. Man, I could go for a hot dog, though. Favorite funny moment? DeSalvo singing that he's a lucky grifter / the king of England. Yeah, that was kind of silly. The end tag... or the end tag, the guy from Jeff's gym.
Great. I love it so much.
There's like one specific part of that made me really laugh.
when
that
it's
I
like
will
the
share.
monster behind him.
Not even that was good, but I will share when we get to my favorite.
Okay. I
moments of
really
the show.
love that bit a lot.
MVP Jeff, I guess he leads the grifting revenge effort, so he gets it by default.
Okay.
Steven, I agree with Zach that the last 3 episodes this season are awesome, so hang tight. You sounded a little bit done with season 6 last episode. I truly was a little bit done with season 6 last episode. Final thing, Dan said last week that the Community movie has an outline and has been pitched, so that's cool. Hopefully Don will be in it for longer than 2 minutes. Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, I hope
have
that
full
he like has a
faith
full
that if
role
they're
in it.
gonna do it, that's like got to be part of it.
But here's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Here's my concern.
Yeah.
He's such a big star now.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think that he would fit really well into the show. I think that the rapport would be great. But he's Donald Glover now. Kind of like how he was the end of the show where he was less boy little
but
boy
I
Troy.
have full faith.
That's
after,
a man now.
After but that's not just going to be a problem with him if they bring him back because it's 10 years later. You know, they're all
Sure.
you can't infantilize Annie at all anymore. And
Yeah.
none of them can be students at a community college. You know, what are the, you know what I mean?
To be fair, Jeff was already 10 years older than the rest of them, so they'll just be all Jeff's age, which would be weird.
That's true. I have faith, though, just in Donald Glover as a performer, that if he chooses to come back, that he knows the essence of the Troy character.
I feel like he's going to steal the show. That's my, I guess, concern, which I would be fine with, but you know what I mean?
But, I mean, didn't he already?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? I don't think it's
fair.
going to be a problem. I think especially the pandemic table read. I think that proved that he can fit in with them just like they all did then. I don't know. Yeah. I think, of course, he's Donald Glover to us, but when you go back with all your old coworkers, I think you can fall into old roles really easily.
Just Donnie! Donnie's back, everybody.
Here's the real question, though. What Chevy?
I could see him having a cameo, but I don't think he's going to be in the movie.
I both don't want Chevy Chase to get work and do really want him to come back for the movie as Pierce somehow.
Yeah.
Both are true. And I know that that's like my selfish fan thing, that nobody wants to work with him, so they won't. But I feel like if we're going to get the gang back together, if we can get Donald back, we can bring Pierce back from the dead.
I don't know.
Where's that Pierce hologram been at? What's he up to?
I'd be fine with them walking past the hologram and that's it.
Was that Brandon's email?
Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Brendan.
Great job. All right, our next email is from Michael, and it's an image of the hat being missed on the hat rack. It says with, and then it says, with a flick of the wrist, I can show you a full 1 minute or longer. That was a funny joke.
Here's my interpretation of that joke. Mm-hmm. Is it that he's going to waste a minute of their time by them thinking about the stunt he just pulled and you're the fool?
Well, I think that he was trying to get it on there both times and just rolled with it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I think he was actively trying. The second attempt wasn't very good, though. That's all from Michael. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. I've never heard of you before, and I still don't know if I have.
Our next one is from Artie.
Hi, Artie.
Artie says,
now
hi,
this
Steven
one I know.
and Zach.
We know Artie.
I wasn't able to write in on time for Intro to Recycled Cinema as I was dealing with a health scare. Been there, sister girl. But I got round to watching...
Let's not belittle what maybe... You pooped for 3 days. I know it really sucked, but we don't know what's going on with Artie. Let's not...
Hey, maybe Artie had a serious poop thing, too.
You're like the person who... You know, someone's partner just committed suicide, and you're like, well, my gerbil died when I was in middle school, so we're basically the same.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel.
So I hope you're okay, Artie.
Yeah,
disregard to
thank
Steven.
you. I'm doing all right. And Artie, we hope you get better soon, too.
Yeah, happy birthday.
But I got around to watching the episode after you uploaded the podcast onto Patreon and agree with you wholeheartedly about it. While it has some moments of funny dialogue, the episode overall feels pointless. It feels like at this point the show is running out of steam, and it's a sad reminder that the end is near. Mm-hmm. Grifting 101 is, by contrast, such an enjoyable watch. The episode gives me Season 1 vibes in that its plot features an actual class and focuses on the dynamic between students and teachers. On top of this, it has a perfect end tag, and I love that with Season 6, the end tags feel like a separate, wacky production. Nice. My MVP for the episode is undoubtedly Roger DeSalvo, despite being the villain. Matt Berry was perfectly pompous and hilarious, especially when delivering everyone's favorite line of the episode, "You hit me with a woman's hand, you Midwestern floozy!" Other well-delivered lines I love include Annie's, "Oh, this is just one of those things where Jeff gets jealous of something dumb." And Abed's, "Just so you know, if I do marry the Sting, and we have half Sting's children, when they ask me how to grift, I'm going to tell them to watch their mother, not to listen to you." Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the episode. I hope you both appreciate this episode as much as I do. It is apparently quite a polarizing episode. I think in part because it's weirdly placed too late in the season's run. I think that if it was aired earlier on in the first half of the episodes, it may have been perceived better all around. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts, Artie. P.S. I should have mentioned this in an earlier email, but I got really excited at the prospect of The Good Place being the show you guys move on to after Community.
Nice.
I won't be able to vote because I refuse to sign up to Twitter. It's scary. But if I could, I would probably vote for this show.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. I do wish that we could have a better way for anybody who wants to possibly vote to vote, but it would be way too convoluted to run more than one poll, and Twitter is our biggest audience.
Could we run a Patreon poll?
I have almost thought, and now we shouldn't be coming up with this type of stuff on the podcast. We should have figured this out like when we came up with the concept so many months ago. I have thought, should we let the poll decide the winner and then pass it on to like the council of the patrons for it to be confirmed?
But then,
Like, should
what
they
if
be like the?
it's not confirmed?
Well, that's why we talk about it. We make plans for these situations.
I think maybe we could give the patrons weighted votes.
But how do we put that into a Twitter poll? How do we?
Well, we do the Twitter poll, and we count the votes
And
from
probably
that.
the same thing wins both, and it's fine.
And then we do the Patreon poll,
Yeah.
and we count those, but then we double them or multiply them by 3 even.
But how does that work when we're talking like the percentage votes? That
Well,
we
it'll
get
give
from
you
a
the
Twitter
number,
poll?
and then we
Okay,
add it all
okay.
together.
It
And
does.
divide
It doesn't
by
give
100.
us the number for each option. It just gives us number of votes all over.
Oh, on
And
Twitter?
we could
do the math.
We could do the math.
I will volunteer to do the math. I'll do the math.
Is that all the emails?
I'll do the math. Yes, that's all. Thanks, everyone, for
Thanks,
writing
everybody.
in.
Follow us on Twitter at YouCan'tDisAPod to keep up to date with which episodes we're still looking for emails for. Or if you want, you could always just like work ahead and get us some emails for the last couple episodes because your chance is running out. So can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com. Send us them thoughts. Steven, you know what time it is, right?
Yeah, I know what time it is. It's time to talk about... I'm just kidding.
It is. It is time to talk about. Did Steven watch the episode this
watch the
week?
episode this week?
That's not what Matt Berry sounds like at all.
I was being arty.
From Glee?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's one of the people on the Secret Celebrity Drag Race this season.
I could see that. But don't they have to be like celebrities?
Well, I guess.
So, you know what time it is. We've got to spend 20 whole seconds learning everything there is to know about this episode from one Stephen Baker. How are you feeling about the task at hand in front of you today?
I've seen this episode once in my life. I
only
haven't
wa-
watched
you
it
saw it once? Yeah.
in about several hours because I watched it at 9 a.m. It's currently 1:26. So I'm feeling great, Zach. I'm going to get an A+ this week. Well, you don't
All
believe
right.
in A+. So I guess I'll get an A.
Maybe you'll make me believe, because I believe in life after love.
Do you believe in love after love?
All right, you've got 20 seconds on the clock. No, you don't. It's a stopwatch. Are you ready?
I am... Snap out of it. I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we've got Grifting 101. We're all going to learn the grift. Surprise, the grifter is the teacher. He's grifting everyone. So they're going to grift him because Jeff will not be grifted by a grifter. So then they grift the teacher into faking an injury and then paying all the money. But then they tricked him and they cooked the money back to the school. So either he owes the money or he leaves. So then he gets out of there. Meanwhile, time.
Stop. Here's what
everything.
that was not bad. That was a good job of getting rid of certain details to make sure you catch everything. However, I would have liked like a mention of briefcases.
Sure.
I would have liked a mention of maybe Britta's involvement in
Yeah.
the second half of the episode. I don't think you did too bad. Maybe a little bit more of a focus on Jeff too,
Sure.
but I think it was good enough to get you a B.
Thank you. I'll take it.
I thought you did a pretty decent job.
Thank you so much.
And let's move right on from that into our favorite funny moments this week. I'll go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off a little bit. I've come around to really enjoying this episode. However, it's not exactly an episode that has tons of memeable community moments. It's kind of more like if the concept and joke of the episode works for you, you'll have a lot of fun
Yeah.
with it. So I don't have quite as many favorite funny moments this week, but I do have a few.
I have a few. The first one I want to say is when Frankie was like, I have some extra briefcases, and I think it was Annie was like, shocker, or somebody said that. I thought that was really funny.
I wrote down also from that beginning scene, someone says, "What's a grifter?" And Elroy says, "I'll show you, or I'll tell you for $5." No, then you better sign me up for that class.
I liked when they get into the class and he's like throwing the hat and missing. I thought that whole bit was very funny.
My second one is also from that moment, and it's specifically the way that he delivers the line when he's like, "And this is Grifting 101." He says it really funnily, and it made me laugh every time.
I like the Abed's joke about the Sting children, and I thought that was really funny.
I have two more. I wrote down. Britta had a take on the word disarming, where she was talking about like taking someone's
Take
arms
my
or something.
arms.
I forget the specific line, but it was. There's been a couple bits this season of Britta having weird understandings of the definition of certain words. What was the other one? Do you remember? There was another one.
I don't remember what it was,
off the
but I
top of
remember
my
it
head, but it was funny, and it reminded me of that.
I thought it was very comical, the special effect of him like healing across the slippery
that
floor.
was really
Jesus
funny.
Christ.
I have one more. My last one. It's really funny when Britta throws a punch at Matt Berry's character, and when Matt Berry says, "You Midwestern floozy," it's just really funny.
I thought the briefcase parade was kind of funny.
Garrett's demeanor through the briefcase parade, and Leonard flipping off the professor was also super funny from his like hotel setup thing.
I liked when Chang was like, everyone was in on the whole time, and they're like, except you, and he's like, "'Cause I can't be trusted." Thought that was funny. And my last
Chang had a
one-
lot of really funny
I like Chang
one-liners
this week.
throughout the episode.
And then my last one was in that in tag specifically when it just said Jeff Winger as him.
That whole sequence is perfect, and we'll get into it. I love when he's talking about the setup, and he's like, "This man saved my life, and I thought I owed him for it." And then the picture of Jeff goes black and white. It's like, and apparently he did too. And that's just, we'll talk about it more, but I've just got to say, that's such a funny joke idea that you can't help but think throughout the episode, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Why is this guy keep showing up? Why is he helping them? And then they make like a movie trailer out of why at the end. Was so funny. Let's talk about what we think of the episode. I am fond of this episode. It's not an all-timer, but I think at the point of the season that we're at right now, it's a really strong episode, and it made me laugh more, and it made me more invested, and it made me kind of like believe the characters were the characters a little bit more than some of the recent episodes have. I just had a real good, fun, harmless time with this one. And I'm not someone who has any... I've never seen The Sting. I've never seen The Grifters. I don't have any frame of reference for those specific homage moments in this episode. But I am familiar with the whole idea of grift-type plots and how stupid they are if you really think about them, especially moments with like all the briefcases just being everywhere, and where we know which one has the money in it, so what's with all the showmanship. I still had fun with it, even not having seen those movies, and I know that you don't quite feel as strongly about it.
So I'll say, like, growing up, I watched a lot of the Ocean's movies. Leverage was one of my favorite shows on TV, which is like a grifting show. Catch Me If You Can is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I haven't seen Catch Me If You Can.
Great Pretender is one of my favorite anime of all time, and that's a grifting, like it's about like con artist type show. So I am really into the whole grifting movie thing. I think when it's well done, it can be really, really good, but I also think it can be really cheesy. So I appreciate the poking fun at that, you know. I just think because this episode, like, I had not seen this episode before preparing.
Was
for the
that kind of
podcast.
fun?
A little bit, but I knew exactly what was going to happen from the very beginning.
Yeah,
and I
well,
think
sure.
that for me made it a little bit less enjoyable when they're doing like the fourth double cross that's happening, you know. But I don't think it's a bad episode. I liked it more than some of the others this season.
End of it though, even if you know there's going to be it. So it's impossible to not think of the conspiracy theories episode. And obviously this episode doesn't hold a candle to the conspiracy theories episode. But I did think there was an interesting bit of adversary between Jeff and the professor this week that I thought was kind of fun to watch. And by the end of it, even though I knew each twist was going to come when it came, it was satisfying to see how they won over the traveling salesman type guy in the end of the episode. I can see where you're coming from, but I was willing to go with it this time and have a good time.
And I think of the episodes where and I like that they poked fun at the fact that every time any sort of male figure or anyone walks into the room, Jeff immediately gets mad and jealous. I think that was fine to point out. But of those episodes, I think that I really like the pottery one much more than this. I like the Todd episode more than this. I think there's a few that I enjoy more that have a similar structure. I do think that it was creative, all the ways they got over it, how like, oh, so there is no plan. But there is a plan. There was always a plan.
That stuff was funny. I think this is a really good episode.
They do that. I really liked when the first telegram came, because that was really funny. And he's like, they want to secure the funds, but I'm going to be a millionaire. And he's like, oh no, that guy left his lottery ticket on the table. Like
that's the
funny.
Same guy as the telegram. No, it isn't. How do you know that? What?
What telegram? Like, I do think all that was funny. I don't know what I wanted out of this episode. I don't know what it is, because I think.
Do you think it's possible that how soured you are a little bit on season 6 might be influencing these episodes that aren't that bad?
No, I was excited for this one. I don't know if maybe my expectations were too high or what, because I'm like, okay, this is a concept I really like. I like the guest stars doing a great job. Like I'm all for it. But I just felt a little let down. Like, I think there were a few moments that I was just like,
Let's dive into it and see if we can pinpoint it. What do you think of just the facade of this episode? I don't think the watercolor type paintings do a whole lot, other than I think that's what they're referencing when they say so much of the sting is animated. But I did really like the ragtime piano throughout the episode.
Yeah.
This was the first time in a while that they've made that big of an aesthetic change with an episode. And especially with season 6 being kind of light on incidental music as a whole. Yeah. I thought it did a lot to, because this is an homage episode, but there's nothing really visually changed about the world of the show. I think changing the music and adding a little more music to this episode really helped make it feel a little more special.
Well, and because I haven't seen The Sting, all the grifting stuff that I have seen has not been in that era, so I didn't really understand that connection for me. I don't know if The Sting takes place in the
And again,
30s.
I don't really know either, but even without getting the reference, I did like the feel they were setting up with it, and I was able to hop in and go along. I haven't seen The Sting. And honestly, after the way they talk about it in this episode, I don't know how anxious I am to
I
see
don't
it.
think I'd want to.
The diabetes runner is pretty funny.
Yeah.
All of it from the way Jeff cleverly says, well, I don't get excited about classes here because I work here. It's like getting diabetes. I forget exactly the way he likens it. But then Chang just so genuinely saying like, yeah, I was just saying how teaching here gave me diabetes too. And then listed that he probably has diabetes. And it's just funny it's really funny the way that they've weaved Chang into the main group of the show, and how everyone else always looks at him with disdain and kind of like doesn't really care much what he has to say, but at the same time you do see like a little bit of concern
they're like
and
concerned
Frankie
about him still.
That he should get some help. He's not going to take care of himself.
Well, and to be fair, it is Elroy and Frankie asking about them, not any of the rest of the study group.
None of the people that were here for when he was the dictator that took over the school. Annie introduces the idea of the grifting class, and everyone gets excited. She thinks it'd be a cute, fun class to take together, and I kind of like that. It's kind of we've all moved on a little bit from where we were a couple years ago, and this is a fun, low-stakes Greendale class that we could all joke about. It makes me think of classes like is it also in the pottery episode where they do the sailing class? Is that the same episode? With Pierce outside.
That might be the same episode.
Because I think it is, because Pierce and Jeff have that moment when Jeff is all burnt out from the rich stuff, and Pierce like gives him a little bit of a pep talk before after he like they threw him off the boat.
Yeah.
And he was gonna row himself back. Yeah. It reminds me a lot of that episode actually. And Basic Pottery or Beginner Pottery is a phenomenal episode. I don't think that this episode is that far from the quality of that episode for me. Because I think that's a good upper middle tier, lower upper tier episode for me. And I think this is a strong upper middle tier episode for me.
Wow.
It kind of reminds me of those. I get the season 1 comparisons. I think Abed is having more fun in this episode than he's been having just
I
about
really
all
like
season.
Abed in this episode. I think he is having fun, and that's what I like. So I feel like that was one thing in season 5 is Abed didn't have as much fun. And that was what, kind of hurt that runner a little bit.
I like the joke there that I kind of missed the first time. Jeff says something, you're just going to get grifted like when you took an oceanography class, except this time you're not all going to get a goldfish.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny. They took an oceanography class and they all got goldfish. And I also like the way that, even though this is a 28-minute episode and there's some scenes that run a little longer, I like that the show knows that the characters and we know the characters enough to know how Jeff is going to react to this before he even sees the grifting guy, before anyone even takes the class. Just the concept of he feels like he can get one over on everyone else. And now there's this other guy on campus who that's his job to teach people that he can do that. That they just know Jeff is going to get pissed before anything's happened. And I think that's kind of funny. Elroy, who's like, I'm judging you, and my dinner table folds down from a wall. Elroy has become... I remember thinking when he was first introduced that Frankie felt really weaved into the group, but it was going to take some time for Elroy to kind of feel like he belonged in the group. And it still kind of feels like he doesn't belong in the group, but
I think
all of his one-liners are some of the funniest of any of the characters. Yeah. So the group is deciding that they're going to take the grifting class because it'll be fun and kind of against Jeff. We get the runner on how people are going to borrow money from Britta's parents.
I think they should have gone into the thing before they made this Britta joke because I don't think it's funny.
You think you should have gone, like the theme song? Is that what you're saying?
They should have gone into it before this Britta joke.
Yeah, they must have just thought it was the funniest joke in the world.
Well, because they made it twice in 30 seconds.
Yeah. I more like the jokes about how they need briefcases, and Frankie has the extra briefcases you pointed out, them being like, of course she does. But then all of the grifty things of the class that does feel very like old-timey traveling salesman but it has to be a standard grade, like a specific kind of briefcase that costs
we'll buy this
money.
Chocolate carrying case to hold your chocolate carrying cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you contribute to this group besides negativity? Watch this. Can I have $150? See,
I do like the moment. I wish the only Britta's money joke had been the one between her and Abed high-fiving.
That would have been funny.
Because Annie hasn't done a lot this season, and one of the things that she's done the most is shit on Britta for the parents thing and or shit on her for just sleeping on their couch and not paying rent. And Annie, more than any character in the show, like I go back and forth on when I like her or not. Sometimes they do a really strong Annie episode where you empathize with her and you see that she's growing, and then other times she's just cruel to her friends.
Yeah, she's just shitty sometimes.
I do like the ragtime theme song because it opens up with that classic da 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 da, and then it really effortlessly blends into the melody of the Community theme song. I thought it was really neat. I would have even liked if they had the forethought to do a different type of visual too. Like
I thought that would have been really fun. Like or even like make the paper look old and have the same stuff on it. That'd be fun.
Exactly. But it was a really cool touch to put the ragtime music and to continue it throughout the episode. It's something that I think makes this a special season 6 episode because they haven't been doing aesthetic stuff like that as much. So now we're at the first day of grifting class, and Matt Berry is just such a gifted performer. The way he commits, he just is this guy, and he commits to this guy being a real guy, even though he's a caricature of a guy. And there's so many funny jokes within this class. I think the idea of him being a con man and being a con man in they all just pass briefcases back and forth from each other because that's how you grift, I think is really, really funny. Matt Berry's speaking voice is so unique and so stand out that, I don't know, it brings a lot of personality to this shady character. It brings a lot of color to him.
Yeah, I think he's a great performer in that really, like it comes across as very genuinely...
Even though it's such a not real type of person. All the shots of them passing briefcases back and forth while sitting in their desks is so funny. And when he's yelling at him, he's like, do it real fast. Pass him like hell.
Pass him like your sister's dying.
And continue that for about 40 minutes.
Slick Pockets Tucker.
My name is Slick Pockets Tucker. No, it's not. He was wondering the next lesson because they're all starting to feel grifted by this just being the class. They just pass briefcases back and forth. And after this, they're going to learn how to pass 2 briefcases at a time. So they'll all have to buy another one. I really like the moment when he has like a cute, evil little laugh at them, like doing what he tells them to. And they're like, what? He's like, it's a very funny book. Then we're going to get, kind of your classic Jeff was right all along scene where they all come to the cafeteria upset about how they got grifted in their class, and Jeff's going to rub it in their face. I like Jeff in this episode. He does some stuff that under different circumstances can make him look like being an asshole to his friends, but he was right the whole time in this episode. And he kind of just gets to, I don't know, it's the type of sarcastic Jeff that doesn't rub me any type of way. Briefcase swapping talcum for a grifter's palm, extra believable socks, all the things they're being talked into buying.
I did like the line where Chang's like, these were actually half off. I feel like I grifted him.
I think Jeff is cute in the way that he is like rubbing this in their face this time. He's like, so let me catch up. You guys took a grifting class and and they know that they kind of messed up, even though, I don't know, I like this episode because there isn't really that high of stakes. Mm-hmm. Nobody's really mad at each other. I like that this isn't the study group versus each other in this matter. It's just kind of a fun game for them to grift the grifty guy. They're not really even that mad at him, other than when Jeff kind of thinks he's a jerk later.
Yeah,
I think
it's
fun.
true.
They get Jeff to agree to help them, to help get revenge and to grift the grifter back. Jeff thinks that's stupid too, but it's obviously going to eat at his ego and proving that he's the ultimate faker in the school. The reverse pissing contest line is so bizarre.
Yeah.
It's the type of stuff that would have and maybe should have been cut if the show was still on NBC, but it's the type of really weird thing you can only do on this type of streaming show that I am glad for every now and then. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, like I think the Chang runner, it's like you said, it's weird and it probably would and should be cut, but it's a little bit funny.
There are a lot of little bits with Matt Berry in this episode. There are some that I think are really funny, some that I think are less funny. I do really like this one when Jeff walks in on him at his desk, at Jeff's desk, and he's on the phone, and the way he's saying, like, good show, puts his finger up. Oh, what show? No, I've never seen that show. And this is the scene. I'm not going to have as much to say about it. It's a good scene. Like I said, I think there's some fun adversary in between the way they at first kind of get along, and they at first, I keep forgetting the professor's actual name.
Yeah, DeSalvo.
DeSalvo. The way DeSalvo at first sees Jeff as maybe a kindred spirit, but then very quickly is like, no, I'm an artist. I'm God, as he says later, and Jeff is lower than that. I think there's some good stuff there, but this is one of those, like, 4 or 5 minute dialogue scenes that has a couple funny moments, and we get what they're trying to do with the scene really quickly, that it could have been zipped up just a little.
Well, and I think Jeff is annoyed enough with him at the very beginning.
Well, I mean, he's drinking his booze and sitting at his desk.
That you don't need to have all the dialogue that you have here, where he's like,
we don't need
grifting.
to show
he's
the
like,
whole process
grifting.
of Jeff becoming against the guy.
Yeah.
He can be instantly against the guy when he sees him taking up his desk.
And he's like, I used to be a grifter, but I'm not a grifter anymore. And he's like, you weren't a grifter, you were a liar. And he's like, I'm not a liar, I'm a grifter master, just like you. And he's like, you're not.
And it is funny, Dan Harmon talked about it on the commentary a little bit, that this argument that they're having is kind of the joke of the episode, that talking about how grifting is an art form and it's just stupid and you don't have to be special to do it. You just are a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, they're really not that different from each other.
I am God.
Such pride in the type of swindler that each of them are. I do like all of Matt Berry's lines about being God and about being God's paintbrush. No, wait, I am God, which means I'm better than you. And Jeff agrees to walk away and disagree, but you know it's because he's got the fire of a grift in his heart.
Mm-hmm. I like when he pulls out the mirror.
I was going to say, this is a moment that didn't work for me as much.
Yeah.
I love Matt Berry. I just, like, they could have cut this. The scene could have left with Jeff.
Probably should have. I do like the image, of them passing the briefcases back and forth.
Abed and Annie. Lunge. What I kind of mentioned to Lily while we were watching this today is on the set of the show, Allison and Danny especially were like best friends. And I feel like season 6, when they get to do a lot of like group work, you can just tell how much fun they have with each other. When they get this physical bit here of passing the briefcase back and forth really intensely, like just their stare and their stance is really funny. It kind of reminds me of when they did like the milking a cow handshake thing. Yeah. It's just that Allison Brie and Danny Pudi have a really weird sense of humor together, and it shows in the show, and I think it's really wholesome.
It's really cute. The, oh no, now we're replacing with other words thing didn't really work for me.
Yeah, when he's like, grift, if you keep saying grift, I'm gonna grift. Yeah, Elroy turns into a Smurf for a second.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so this one is weird, but in the context of how many times it happens throughout the episodes, I kind of like all the cheesy everybody jumping in the cafeteria. And now that I've seen it a couple of times, I like this one in which they're really into it and everyone else in the cafeteria is like, what are you guys doing?
Well, and I think that's what makes it funny for me, this one, because everyone else is like, what is wrong with you guys?
Well, I mean, it makes sense later in the episode because how many times have they had a cafeteria Dave Matthews Band party? Like the Greendale student body is down to party at any time. What I thought was really funny here, as they're walking away after they have their moment and it ends kind of awkwardly because everyone's looking at them, Abed and Annie pass their briefcases one more time and then walk out the door. It made me laugh a little bit every time. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was Grifting 101 was the first title card. Now we're to the setup. We're back in the class, and now everyone has 3 briefcases that they're all just passing around all willy-nilly. Or I guess they have 2 and they're passing.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
Chang was just doing it wrong.
And they're learning about the next way that they're going to get to spend money on this class. They're going to spend money on rolls of fake money so they can practice passing the briefcases weighted with money. And this is when, 10 minutes into the episode, where I think things really do take off. Where from this point on, even though you see all the twists and stuff coming, that's not really the point. The point isn't to like solve the crime faster than the people. It's more to laugh at the ridiculousness of Ryan Ridley, the Telegram guy, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I think it's so funny. All of the, I don't know, like at first you think that it's obvious grifts that they're doing to throw off the guy, but then when you watch it again, knowing that Jeff is just making shit up and coming up with stuff as he goes and really was hoping that the Africa Telegram guy was gonna work, I think it makes it even funnier.
My Aunt Baba.
But she left me $1 million, but the African government wants to seize my funds. And the Professor DeSalvo? Am I right? Mm-hmm. DeSalvo? He knows what's up right away. And he sends everyone but Elroy out and chews him out for trying to grift him. I like the moment when the professor plays a little mind game on Elroy and says Jeff Winger's name to see how he reacts.
Yeah.
Because he immediately knows that when Jeff left and was like, oh, let's just agree to disagree, that he was leaving to start whatever plan this is. And Matt Berry, when at first he's like, nice try, then nice try twice. Then after he learns that it's Jeff's thing in the end, he's like, nice try thrice.
I did not love the thrice one. That one did not tickle my funny bone.
I think it's kind of funny.
It didn't make me laugh, Zach.
Comedy is subjective, Steven.
Comedy comes in threes.
It's more the way he says it, and like, I don't know. Okay, so now we get the scene in the student lounge where
everybody's
Jeff,
just drinking.
Yeah. What happened to? I guess did Frankie give them all the alcohol back after the speakeasy thing, or did they just not mention it?
I think they probably just brought more. They all seem to be.
This is kind of that season 6 thing where the show. Both of these Jeff and the Professor scenes should have been half the length.
Yeah.
Because they're both good, but they both take up like a chunk of the episode instead of the grifty shenanigans that are more fun. But I like this little pissing competition that they have. What exactly are they trying to accomplish in this scene? Are they trying to just intimidate each other?
I think it's just the first scene again, but with them having more animosity.
Now they're like agreeing to a war, kind of.
Yeah.
The lottery ticket scheme is funny, that it's very obviously the same guy. It is funny. Because of the internet, like, wink thing is a little too ham-fisted.
Fine.
He's like, because the internet, which is the place where you went to look up grifting. It is funny because both of the 2 things that Jeff did, he probably did Google grifting. And these were like a couple of the first things that came up that he could recreate. I think Jeff plays a lot of levels of disheveled in this episode, and it reminded me that Joel McHale's a pretty good actor when he's given some good lines. Yeah. He's got some great facial expressions, and he's kind of become famous for being a personality more these days. I'd love to see him deliver lines this good again in the future.
Yeah, I think it's silly when he's like, okay, truce, no more grifting. But I also promise if this is worth $1 million, we'll split it. It's like he's still like Jeff has no idea what he's doing.
Frankie coming in and taking everyone's alcohol was a little weird. Does it just mean they were never supposed to have alcohol again?
They were not. No,
it's
the teacher's lounge.
Yeah, okay.
They're at work.
But like in the past, that's been the thing. Everybody just drinks in the teacher's lounge.
And she's tried to stop them. Isn't that why they started the speakeasy?
But that's what I was trying to think is, wasn't that resolved? Or no, it wasn't. They just went back
she's told him to stop.
Yeah. I liked this scene a lot of this episode, and I think a big reason why I like it more than you is because it's funnier the second time. Like, there's no funny grift. Like, the grift isn't hard to follow at all. Yeah. But it's funnier watching all of these scenes that weren't that funny the first time, knowing what they lead to, like with Britta and the professor here. This scene doesn't really mean a lot in context of the first watch until you get to the end of the episode. Other than when they shit on Britta for her parents, I do kind of like Britta in this episode.
I like Britta in this episode.
It kind of goes along with the Honda episode with how good she was at swindling people there, that she ends up being a big part of why they're able to grift the grifter. And even he later on tells Britta, like, you're really good at this. Maybe you could do this. So now we get the scene where they're all in like some auxiliary room, like a storage room. And this is where everything kind of crumbles and they learn that Jeff's plans were not a plan at all.
Yeah.
Because there's that funny interaction with like, he took the bait. I thought we didn't want him to take the bait. Oh, you're saying the same thing as me. He didn't take the bait that we did not want him to take.
Which is the bait.
It's even Chang here who kind of points out what's wrong with what Jeff's saying. He's the one who's like, but knowing that we're grifting him, isn't that the one thing we don't want him to know? Which is what spurs then Annie to really put it together.
Yeah.
The look Jeff
of like
gives
terror
when she's
in
like,
Jeff's face was so good.
Like, yeah, Joel's really good in these scenes.
I do like Jeff in this
one. He plays a lot of good emotions.
Improvisationally? It's like imagine an episode of the A-Team where like Hannibal actually didn't have a plan and they were just like risking their lives winging it. Like, that'd be funny.
There are a couple moments in the scene that I think are really funny. Like here, when Jeff's like, remember when we were all jumping and hugging in the cafeteria? Well, we've all been together since then. So when did you think I sat down and formulated a plan? And then I also like the moment when he like gets it all together and he's like, okay, we're going to figure it out. Abed, do you have your computer? Yeah, sure. What do you want it for? We're going to watch The Sting. And then it cuts to them watching The Sting. I think the timing of that reveal is really fun.
Yeah, that's really good.
But that's, of course, after the great dialogue about the movie The Sting and Abed marrying The Sting. And the way that he snaps, listen to your mother and not you.
It's so good.
It's a great Abed moment.
I like when Abed starts yelling because he kind of goes back into that little bit like Nicolas Cage.
He goes like, bad
mode,
stinger,
so
I think is what he yells. And I also think this is a good episode, Steven. I think you're actually actively wrong on this one. The moment when they're all yelling at him and Jeff is just trying to save face and he's like, you guys, you're always picking on me, all right? I think the way he said that was really, really funny.
2 minutes of fun dialogue and a good episode, it does not make it, Zachary.
But I think I've been saying that about stuff pretty much this whole time so far, aside from the two kind of longer scenes with Matt Berry and Jeff.
Look, I need this. I need to be better than this guy. So let me think.
Abed. Yeah. Did you bring your laptop?
Yes, right here. What do you want to do with it?
Watch The Sting.
So they do. They watch The Sting. Most of them sleep through it. It's very reminiscent of you and me in a laptop sitting in my car watching a full season of television. There's like 6 of them in school chairs watching a full, like I assume 3-ish hour long movie on a little laptop screen and in the light. Can you imagine the glare that they have to deal with?
Yeah, it's probably terrible.
Not the best way to watch a film whatsoever.
And Sting wasn't even in it.
But he was in our first season finale.
It's true. He showed up. We really busted out the guest stars in season 1.
Yeah,
blew
we're
our
out
whole
now.
budget.
Alex Webster. MJ. Can't afford that anymore.
No. And the airfare alone.
I thought it was funny. So they watched The Sting, and Jeff kind of puts together. So I guess what we learned from that is they like made a fake building to do The Sting. And then Chang, the way that he kind of holds on to that, and he's like, maybe we should just do that.
So much construction.
Then everyone kind of bails on Jeff because it's late, and they've tried everything they can. They don't have an idea for a grift. I am a little bit confused at where the actual plan is made and put into motion. Did the rest of them decide this without Jeff?
Or was it just Britta?
I mean, it doesn't matter, and I think part of the episode is that it's stupid. Briefcase parade.
Yeah.
I know that she has my briefcase. You know, it doesn't really matter, but I do kind of wonder. They get caught by the professor as they're planning and scheming, and Jeff tries to attempt to surrender. He says that he lost, and that the professor is the better man, the better grifter, and the pompous professor really puts Jeff down with his words.
Because he can't even think of a metaphor pathetic enough to suit Jeff Winger.
It's such a funny moment. And okay, so I already answered my own question. Britta came up with the plan.
Yeah.
Off of what she and the professor talked about at the bar.
Correct.
And part of it is that the professor thinks that she's in on something with him, but she's thought a couple steps ahead. And in this moment, we don't know that yet. So it's really fucking satisfying to watch Britta punch the shit directly in his face. It's a really good Britta moment, I think, to see her do that.
Is it warranted? Is it warranted if she's not already planning to do it for a grift? To run up and punch a teacher?
Just because he's being a pompous asshole and he's been grifting all of them, so she's fed up and it has enough. Sure, it makes more context in the like that this was sort of planned. Whether or not it's a good decision, I don't know.
Well,
but
I think
thought
it's extra funny because
really
Britta
funny
also
moment.
has zero of her own money invested in this, only other people's.
Well, she's gonna get a little money from the professor
Well, sure.
because of the injury plan.
But no one else knows that.
But she does, so that's why she's invested.
I guess.
In fact, what's funny is that really, like, we know why Jeff is invested. I guess now we kind of know why Britta is invested. A lot of the rest of the gang are just kind of around because this is fun. And I kind of like that aspect of it, that it's not like a big contentious
Well, they've
thing.
been, at this point, cheated out of $400.
Well, sure, I get why they're peeved, but I think they also think it's fun to try to come up with a plan to trick a guy.
Sure.
This is the slip. It's such a funny moment when he heelies,
So bad.
into the stairwell.
He said... It's rough.
It very much looks like he's on like a luggage cart type thing.
Yeah.
That they have.
Looks like he has on
tilted-
Heelys.
No, it's like he's laying back on a thing that's been edited out that's wheeling him.
Well, maybe
You know what I
you've
mean?
never been in a pair of Heelys living on the edge of
I haven't.
the livable angle.
You think you can satisfyingly glide like that in a pair of Heelys?
You keep them oiled, you can.
It's funny both here seeing what makes the injury appear to have been real, even though it is pretty obvious because it's a trope that he's gonna use this injury to try to get money out of the school. I think it's funny both here how it looks real, and then later on when we see him really like gingerly walk down the steps and chew on the capsule and haphazardly lie down.
I think that the funniest part of this for me is Chang. Oh, he's grifting. That's grift blood. I'm sure it's car syrup and food dye.
Someone
go
lick
taste
it. I
Not
would,
me,
but my
it's my
diabetes.
diabetes.
Then the funniest thing is after he says I would, but my diabetes, he looks at it for a while like he really wants to
He
be
really
the one to
wants
lick
to take
it.
a lick, yeah.
That is funny. Next title card, we've got the payoff. We don't get very much Dean Pelton in this episode, but this one joke that he gets and the way that he really milks it with his physicality, I think is really funny.
It's hilarious.
Lily said this. Lily works at a bank, and Lily was like, this is me at work every day. Like 20, 21. But did you really count the money or did you just count the stacks? And he does the like lift his curls little motion. He's like,
I need to start again.
you know, you give Jim Rash just one line in an episode or two lines in an episode, and he'll
gonna
make it
nail
one of
it.
the funniest jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Chang,
I do like Chang
keeping
the
record throughout this. Basically, all he gets is that Frankie is disgusted, for the record.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going on here? The school is offering the professor money to keep the injury quiet. I kind of like, and I noticed watching this, for such a long episode, I like that a lot of the buildup of that fact it happened without us seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
A worse show would be like a whole scene of I'm suing and you guys better give me money, and then being like, well,
I do
we gotta
like
keep this
that.
quiet. I like that we cut
Here's my
direct to this
question,
part has
though.
happened. Yeah.
At this moment in time,
Uh-huh.
other than Britta, who's in on it?
Who's in on it? I'm sure. And now this might have even been. Now I have an idea for what could have made. I like this episode. I have an idea for what could have made it a little better. What if it had been about like all of them have their separate ideas of what the
Exactly,
grift is
that
going to
would've been
be?
funny.
Of like how they're gonna get the briefcase that has all the money in it, and it keeps like changing hands and they keep butting heads. I think maybe what the issue here is, and Dan made it clear from the commentary, is that he's not super into grift movies and stuff. Even the episode of Rick and Morty that goes a little deeper into Ocean's 11 and stuff also makes it clear that they have quite a bit of disdain for that type of like showy doing a thing storytelling.
Like, I replaced the tape in the deck 3 months ago because I knew that, I knew that you were going to do it, so I untied my shoelace just at the precise moment.
I think there's like two schools of thought. It's like, one, the episode doesn't give enough for some of the reveals that it has. Or on the other hand, the whole point of the whole episode is that grifting is stupid, whether you think you're the person doing it or the person getting grifted. And it's stupid and who cares and what's the point? And that's a very Dan Harmon season 6 mentality.
It is.
That can lead to really funny, pointed, thoughtful things on society, like really funny moments, but it does kind of feel like a lot of the season has in certain points that he's strung out and can't break a story, so he breaks himself and then writes that.
Well, I also think it would have been funnier because, like, obviously someone else is in on it because of what happens
that was
later.
to start your question.
But
is there anybody else other than Britta
at
right
this point
here
who's already in on it?
I think no, and they're at a loss for having to give him this money. They're glad to at least he's not going to keep them out of court. And most of them are thinking this is part of the grift and we've got to figure something out. But I don't know that anyone else is in on the plan.
Yeah. Well, because in a little bit when they show what happens in the next scene after this, like what really happened, they make, I think, the wrong joke. I think they make a joke about the briefcase being really clumsily switched, which sure is funny because none of them actually got good at switching briefcases. They just actually wore down the friction, which is why Annie and Abed could do it. But I think it would have been also funny to actually have Annie and Abed smoothly like switch a briefcase at some point, and like it's really like, I think that would have been funny as well.
They should have had their cake and eaten it too, because the scene with the briefcase parade and stuff is really funny. And the point is that it's all for visuals and it does not matter.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it have been fun if they did that and also had a couple of cool
Exactly.
nifty switchovers in the scene just for fun, because it's fun anyway?
Just for fun. Yeah. Because if you're going to have an episode like this that is just for fun,
We're
have
totally
fun with it.
letting slide that for a moment here. Not that it matters, because who are these students anymore? The Britta gets expelled from the school.
Yeah, they kind of forget too.
Well, Elroy has the funny moment, like, you can't expel Britta. She's the heart of this group. She started it as a chemistry class back to have sex with Troy. And everyone's like, no. And Chang's like, that's exactly right.
We're 4 week-isodes left in the
semester. Why did the dean put the magazine in the one?
Because he wants him to sign up for classes with this money that he has now.
Yeah. And I'll just put this in here just in case. That is funny.
Don't help me, anyone.
So the professor wheels away with his money, and the study group is like group hug 2, 3. When Matt Berry has the neck brace on, it kind of makes, like, with his facial hair, it kind of looks like a goat.
I like it.
So he's outside waiting in the hallway, and Britta calls him into the supply room to fill in the gaps of what went on in their conversation earlier, and continues the grift past just the guy getting the money and walking away with it. So Britta had agreed to meet with him there later to get a cut of the money for kicking off the injury grift of it all. But he was, of course, just going to leave with the money, so Britta called him away, like, as soon as she could after everything went down. And he does. He gives her a couple handfuls of money, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gives her a couple stacks.
We get a flashback of what really happened during the fall. Him just taking one step at a time, really stepping easily than I do when I'm just normally walking down the stairs.
Yeah.
And then biting a blood capsule. Oh, God. It was also kind of interesting here because in a moment, the professor tells Britta that she'd be good at grifting and maybe she should go into it further. And they have, like, an emotionally charged moment that leads to a kiss that, of course, is because of the grift and briefcases are switching behind it. But it was kind of, I could see a little bit, like, not knowing the episode for the first time, thinking that maybe Britta and the professor are about to have sex or something. Because we've seen Britta be attracted to these type of guys in the past. I don't think it's that much different from the Subway Honda scenario at all.
Oh, how dare you belittle the pure, honest name of Honda like
Not
that,
Subway
Zach.
so much.
No, Subway, don't say their name if they're not paying us.
They've had their struggles.
Yeah. You know what the best getaway car is? The Honda Fit. It's
We're
got enough
past this.
zip to get up out of there.
I don't like it when it cuts to him singing in the hallway in his wheelchair for a second, but when the professor's just happy because he got to kiss a pretty girl and they're
Yeah.
gonna meet at a hotel later and he's being totally f***ed over and not realizing it, his "some say I'm a lucky grifter" is pretty funny.
I didn't like the line though because Britta's like, "Oh, I'm only doing this for Jeff's sake" or something like that. I didn't care for that, but I do. It's she's pulling one over on him.
Yeah. You're saying you don't like that she's only pulling one over on him to help Jeff?
I don't like that that's what she's saying there. I don't know how true that is, but
Okay.
yeah.
This is when you realize something's got to be wrong. The weight feels a little weird. He's starting to realize he got grifted as he walks away with the money. Not the luckiest grifter, not the king of England.
Not the king of England.
Got the fake stacks. They do a good job of every time they like cut to what actually happened. Of like when we saw this for the first time, it looked the same, and they made it so it would be possible for this to be happening behind them.
Yeah.
I think I always like when shows are able to do that, like show you the scene again from a different angle. Whose hands do you think those were?
Elroy's.
I wasn't sure if it was Elroy or Abed because it was in black and white. I kind of thought Elroy too.
They looked like old man hands, not the smooth, silky Danny Pooty little mitts.
That's fair. And you've spent a lot of time looking at those hands.
Oh, I'm very familiar with Danny Glover's hands. I can pick them out of a lineup.
I get what you're saying when, because you like grift stuff, you wish there had been a little bit more to the sequence that happens right here. But I just think as a visual and as this asshole professor getting f***ed over like easily, I think it's funny. I like the Leonard with dressed up like
I
a
do
bellboy
like the Leonard.
with all the briefcases, identical briefcases. Then he just starts knocking them over. This is pointless. I already know she has the briefcase. I think that's like the funniest
But
part
then
of the
they
whole
walk
episode.
right next to him again, so which I get the point. None of it matters.
But
I get
also she walks right there, but I'm sure the briefcase has switched hands. The
You would
money
think.
briefcase.
Have
right.
they?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think now that there are so many briefcases, so many people, and they're part of that line, he can no longer be so sure that it's her that's holding his briefcase. I like Abed's face the whole time. He looks like a Muppet.
Yeah.
He turns back around to look at Leonard as everyone gets away up the stairs, and he can't get up the stairs unless he reveals that his injuries were fake, and Leonard
Yeah.
just flips him off. That's such a good moment.
It's
Rest
good.
in peace, Richard Erdman. He had some iconic stuff
Cutie
on
guy.
this show. So he does. He ditches the injury. He gets up, goes up the stairs, and chases them to the cafeteria. Has the cafeteria been
cafeteria's
up a
upstairs?
series of stairs this whole time? That can't be true.
You can get there right from outside.
There's no way. But in that shot where he comes around the corner, doesn't it kind of look like he came from upstairs or downstairs?
Well,
Like, look at this a second. Okay. So he
well,
turns
because
around.
we see him running upstairs.
but
That's
then-
why it looks like that.
But then
not-
the next shot, I don't know.
flat.
You're right. You're right. I like that we get a moment with Officer Kikowski in this. His moments in season 6 have been pretty funny.
I think so too.
And this is basically the professor's comeuppance, is that they didn't really even need to successfully grift him. They just got him to break his grift in front of everybody. If his injury isn't real, and if they never wrote down that they gave him the money because they were keeping it quiet, either they give him money and they owe it back to him for some reason, or nobody gets any
Yeah.
money and we just walk away. I think it's a really satisfying conclusion. You know, Community's done things in the past, like in season 4 when the guy's going to give them money and then they just get the money. There's no and this is what happens, so they don't get the money. I like that there's no questions of, well, what happens to the $50,000? I think it's an ending that makes sense.
I would have liked though if it like they had kind of almost like a Kaiser Soze ending where like the dean was walking back to his office with the $50,000.
Had like a stack of money in his pocket or something.
That'd be funny.
The dean's not that smart. It couldn't be the dean.
That's fair.
And it is funny is he's like, everybody saw this, everyone's going to vouch for me, and then everyone else walking in like, hi, what happened? I think that's a little funny. The ending works for me. Don't bring me down. I like this episode. I would probably put this episode in the top 3 of the season for me so far.
Wow.
Maybe the third, but I think it is in the top 3 of the season for me so far.
It's probably in my top half.
It's not going to stay in the top 3, but right now it's there.
And Jeff couldn't have been the bad guy. He was putting together a puzzle the whole time.
And Jeff is the one who explains kind of what we were just talking about, that they've already won. He's explaining that they owe him money for no reason because him saying what he's saying just gives it all up.
So either admit you got grifted or admit that you lied about your injuries and owe the school $50,000.
And it is a satisfying moment when the grifter does break and he says, "You grifted me." I think it's a satisfying moment, and Matt Berry plays off that moment really well. It's a little bit of an earned celebration after a whole episode of them trying to force group hugs in the cafeteria. And Kukowski wasn't there for any police business at all. He's just there for class. The dean kind of fires DeSalvo, says it wouldn't make sense if he keeps teaching the class, and they pretty much kick him on the ass right outside the school.
Kick him right on the ass.
And, you know, season 6 has had a lot of weird, we don't know how to end the episode, so we're just going to end it with everybody hugging and having a good time.
Yeah.
But this is one of the ones where it kind of works for me, just because they're also ridiculous and positive, and we get to see the thwarted DeSalvo as everyone yells, "Hot dogs, hot dogs," I think is pretty funny.
Hot dogs!
It works just fine for me.
Hot dogs!
The Chang realizing why he's the only one who wasn't in on it the whole time, because he can't be trusted. Yeah, hot dogs. Really funny.
Hot dogs.
I don't think anybody's ever gotten that excited for a hot dog. Like, a hot dog's good. A hot dog's fine.
I don't know. I get
It's
pretty
not worth a
excited
jump and a
sometimes
cheer.
about hot dogs. I'm literally going to go make hot dogs when we finish this. And they're going to
Well,
be yummy.
That's the end of the episode, but thankfully the end tag is a strong highlight this week.
I think it's funny.
After a couple weeks of not the best end tags, the rest of the season is back at it with some strong end tags. And we learned the real history of Ryan Ridley, the telegram man, the lottery guy, and why he's so willing to do anything Jeff might need him to help out with, and why maybe he's getting sick of it too. It's really funny in his moment here when he's like, "Whatever you need, just say it and I'll do it." And Jeff's like, "Well, I kind of need help moving a mattress this weekend." And you can see his spirit kind of break a little bit. He's like, "Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that
cool.
okay?
Let me know." And he leaves. And then we get his origin story. It feels
My
very
name
like a
is Ryan
CW
Ridley.
show.
Oh, yeah.
I think it, like what Artie said about, it seems like a whole separate production, because when they do these in tags in season 6, there's like 3 or 4 sets in this that we don't ever see any other time. There's like 80
And they
shots.
all look like NBC shows. Like they're
There's like
the
80
lighting's
shots
different.
when the rest of the episode has been really long, drawn out scenes.
Yeah.
It's really funny. I felt like I owed him my life. Apparently, he agreed. All the shots, he pours booze for Jeff. He washes his car. He shines his shoes. He rushes to the dry cleaner. He brings all the coffee, waters the plants. He gets haunted by like a Scooby-Doo villain while he's looking through file folders, massages his scalpel, and then, the title card, the guy from Jeff's Gym, starring Ryan Ridley and Jeff Winger as him. The look on his face, he answers the phone, and
It's so good.
Jeff asking him to do something. He's like, and then that's the end of the episode.
It's
That's
great.
a great end tag. Steven, do you feel maybe a little warmer about the episode?
I don't think I was ever cold. I never said it was bad. I just don't think I was quite as up on it as you were.
I mean,
I think it's okay. But as a whole, I've still been pretty underwhelmed by season 6.
season 6's best episodes are really good, but they're very much in the, don't stop watching Community because there are some really good episodes coming up, and there are. They don't quite reach the heights, but what sitcom in its 6th season does? And Community, a show that like does so many weird things and keeps so many plates spinning, like put on an episode of this season 6 episode versus like a season 6 episode of like Modern Family or something. I'll take these like 2/3 full Community episodes over any other sitcom in its 6th season pretty
Bazinga.
much. Bazinga indeed. I think it's still a great episode. I don't think it's as good as the conspiracy theory episode that it brings to mind, but
Sure.
I'm still glad that Community made it to a 6th season and that we got to end the show. Aren't you at least glad that season 6 happened and the ending wasn't the basic story and basic sandwich?
Totally.
And I think you're gonna really like the series finale. At least I hope.
Oh, wouldn't that be drama if I didn't like it? Would we just stop podcasting?
And now that the closer that we're getting to it, and the more I'm like, oh yeah, but the really good ones are coming up. You're gonna really like them. In the back of my head now, I'm like, is he
You're like,
gonna
oh
like
no,
them?
what if he hates them?
Well, let's talk about MVP for this episode. For me, it's Jeff. Jeff has not gotten very many front of the camera storylines this season. I think I might have even given Jeff my MVP last week with the sci-fi movie episode, perhaps. I think it's a good showing for Jeff. I think Joel has really settled into the role that Jeff plays within the group now, that's kind of front, but a little bit more of a just as much a main character as anybody else is. And this is a good one of those episodes that allows him to be kind of the focus again. It's Jeff. I think Joel McHale does great.
I want to give honorable mentions to Elroy, Abed, and Professor DeSalvo this week.
Sure.
My MVP was Britta. I think Britta's the only one who pulls off a successful grift in the whole episode, so she gets my MVP.
I get that. I don't think anyone needed to. I think it's more satisfying for me watching Jeff
Well, that wasn't your MVP, was it?
try to grift and fail. No, it's a good Britta episode. I just think it needed a little bit more of her to be MVP worthy.
Unacceptable.
Well, that's it. We did it. This was fun.
Let's do it. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
What do you mean, let's do it? We just did.
Let's
do
jump
it.
into the episode.
We
Let's see
have
what we
done
think
it.
about it.
We've done it.
Hi, I'm Steven, and you grifted me?
Yeah, so that's it for this week. It's done. That's it. We've finished. We're going to put it to bed. And next week, we're going to be back with the 3rd edition of America's Next Top Zach and Steven Rewatch Podcast. Amanda Show. Make sure to tune in next week to find out what the 3rd option will be and to be strategizing which of the 4 you'll be voting for. And
I know I'll be feeling
what?
good.
I think that'll be
Get
the
it?
end of next month. You'll be voting.
I'm going to be feeling good. Did you catch that one?
And in the meantime, if you want, it is a good time to write us in for next episode of Community that we'll be doing in 2 weeks' time, which is Basic RV Repair and Palmistry, an episode that I will go out on a limb and say, along with this one, I had only seen it once, and I did not like it very much.
Oh boy, can't wait.
So we'll dive into that next week. I hope I'm wrong, because I kind of felt like I was wrong about this one, so maybe it'll be a surprise.
I think you were wrong about this
Or
one
maybe...
today.
Steven, we've talked about this. I am the voice of the show. Well, that's it, guys. Let's. What do we need to do to wrap this thing up?
Well, I'm going to tell them some stuff, Zach.
Go ahead.
If they want to get in our action, other than emailing in and
If you want to
hopping on the
jab at
Patreon.
Steven's hemorrhoids,
Yeah. Go follow us on Twitter over at You Can't Diss a Pod. We're also over on Instagram at Can't Disappoint Podcast. We'll be giving you all the up-to-date news about when and what we're recording and what to send in for said articles of recording history.
Exactly.
We're also over on Facebook and YouTube under the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. We're going to be doing some fun bonus stuff after we finish the serial run of the show. There's going to be some videos, I'm sure, for at least one of those things. So
Sure.
Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube. Smack that bell. Punch it like a con artist teacher in the face so that you can stay up to the minute, up to date, up to the second in real time with us here at the show.
Look, we've only got 4 episodes of Community left, and I think Steven might be about ready for those last couple episodes of Community. But we love Community, and we're going to continue to be a weekly Community podcast for a little bit longer, even after we finish the show. We've got some fun stuff planned, some extracurricular stuff to discuss after we finish the run of the show. So stick with us as we get through these last 4 episodes, and then these last few months of this beautiful thing we've created.
Aw. And then we're going to put it in the river and send it to the Pharaoh.
Yeah, we're going to immediately disown it and move on to the next better thing. Just kidding. From inside the Dreamatorium, I'm Zach. Black Lives Matter. I'm Zach.
I'm Steve.
I'm Zach.
And
And
Baba.
how about some hot dogs?
Hot dogs! Come get your hot dogs here!
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Look what you've done.